say yo, 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 I'm walking out of the room.
Hey guys, hope y'all are having a great Monday. Just had a great U.S. Open, and we were just talking about the College World Series before we came on live here, sitting with Brett and Emma. And it's amazing at how how you can just see something happening at the end of the College World Series, like what happened to Auburn last night. They get a ground ball to the third baseman. Third baseman's their star offensive hitter, and absolute airmails the ball to first base. Now, the question comes down to, how do you move forward when you make a tragic mistake like this? This was not a guy who hadn't been under intense pressure before, but he had never been in the College World Series. So where do you go from here? Where do we go? How does a team, how does a player bounce back from making a mistake like that? Well, there's nothing you can do once you make a mistake. And I hear from players all the time who call me and they think that they suck. They think they're terrible. They think it's awful. They think it's, what's that? They think it's miserable. They've blown a lead. They've screwed up, and they feel like the world is coming to an end because they let down everybody else. But you have to understand, as a player, as a coach, and job as a coach is to help players understand this and navigate the difficulty, is that many times the most disappointing times of our careers, the most difficult times, the most painful experience we have in our competition and our performance are where the greatest lessons lie. Now, I can't stand when I hear people say that failure's good, okay? The reason is I don't want to normalize failure. We don't build statues for people in second place. You've heard me say that many times before. It's about getting it done when it matters. And I have a really hard time when people glorify failure. Is failure important for success? 1,000%. Okay. Remember, years and years ago, they used to fertilize crops with manure. All right. So the excess, the dumping of other people is what fertilized the crops to grow. But it wasn't actually the fertilizer that you ate. So when you fail, we always want to romanticize the failure and make it something great, when reality is that we have to learn to use that failure to motivate our future growth. This player last night who made the mistake is going to hurt. And Auburn has a really tough challenge to be so close to victory and have it snatched out. It wasn't because of his one mistake. He should have never been in that position anyways. The ball game should have been a better ball game much, much earlier than that. We want to focus on the one mistake, and we never watch the series and the buildup of mistakes that make it harder for ourselves. But when you make a mistake, what are you learning from it? Okay? What are you growing because of it? That's why I put together my elite journal many years ago, because I want athletes to be able to focus and train looking at the 3 things that they did well every day. So regardless if you have the worst day of your career, you still have a chance to learn from it. So what are the 3 things that you did well today? Okay. What were the 3 areas that you struggled with today? Be honest. And then what are the 3 things that you're going to do to improve going forward? Or did you learn something about yourself in this process? An athlete that doesn't take the time and do an honest review of their progress and their performance allows emotion to guide their decision-making. And when you allow emotion to guide your decision-making, what happens is you start attacking yourself or blaming circumstances around you. See, performance is not always about it being perfect. And when you romanticize the perfect, you always live frustrated. You've got to find a way to identify the areas of improvement in your game and also embolden and strengthen the things that you do well. You can have the worst day of your life and still have a good day. You can still learn to see the areas where you need to get better and build on the areas that are good for you. This is what's important for athletes to understand. But for coaches, it goes deeper than that. See, coaches must have a developed and trained player development plan for every player they coach. If you don't understand what it takes to develop a player It's not about fixing the little problem here or there and then pumping them up. It's about understanding why when a player feels a certain way, why when a player continues to struggle in certain areas, why those patterns continue. So about a year ago, I put together this player development form. It's right here. All right. And so if you want to, you can email us here at the office. If you go to brettmccabe.com and you go to the contact page and you submit a form and just put in the notes that you want the player development form, we'll shoot it back out to you immediately. Okay. What this form highlights is that it's a review that the coach goes through, that they actually look at areas where I think that they're performing well. And they look at areas where they're meeting or falling short or exceeding expectations, where they have an honest way of looking, because coaches, we fall into being emotional too. We fall into the things that, we want a player to play well. We don't want a player to struggle. And so we get caught up in the emotionality of everything. You got to write this stuff down, and it's got to be a consistent part of your developmental process. You got to look at the performance areas that need improvement. All right. If you do one of these every time you see a player, so let's say over 2 weeks you do it 3 or 4 times, and the performance areas identified for improvement are different every time, we must do a better job in the coaching process because we're too reactionary. You have to look at a plan to develop those improvement areas. What are you going to do? If you continue to identify a player has to get better, what are you going to do? And then what goals, what player goals are in front of you? What are you trying to reach for? The reason why this is so important is it formulates thoughts. We're going to be coming out with an entire coach's toolbox at some point here in the near future. And it's going to have ways to help you develop your philosophy and your system and your process, as well as how you interact with your players. It's going to give you resources to become a better coach and a better leader. And as a player, the tools that are already in our system at the Mindset Academy are already there to help you manage the ups and the downs. Okay? But it's critically important that you do the work as much as you ask your players to work. I see a lot of coaches tweet and text, man, I need to be better. Well, I have the same feeling. I need to be better every day. Every interaction I have with a player, every time I go out to a big tournament, every time I go out to a big national championship, I look back at areas that I need to be better. And there's a whole lot of areas that I need to improve. It can make me feel down. It can make me feel guilty. It can make me feel disappointed. But at the same time, if I can get my thoughts down on paper, it can help me get organized to have a better plan of attack working with my team. That's what ultimately it comes down to. So I want to encourage you to do the work as much as you ask your players to do the work. And realize that the struggles that you have, just like this Auburn third baseman, okay, who made a big mistake last night. He made an error. It happens. But he's going to learn from it. We don't want failure to happen. But when it does, we want to be prepared to work through it and overcome it. Because through that, we can really, really stimulate further growth. You guys have a great week. Let us know. Go to brettmccabe.com. That's BRETTMCCABE.com. In the contact form, send a request for the player development form. We'll send it right out to you. I'll see you guys next week.